In today's episode, we have a billionaire hypnotist, Ebrahim. He helps the most successful people in the world become more successful. He's going to help you to remove your limiting beliefs, find what's blocking you from making more money and being more successful. And if you stay tuned till the end, he's also going to hypnotize me into making $1 million a month. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and let's get into the episode. So you've hypnotized billionaires, millionaires. What do you say to start with is the biggest belief you've had to almost kind of shift in their own head to get them to the next level of where they want to be?
It's all self-belief and self-image. People make as much money as they believe they should make. So to someone, I'll always ask somebody, what's the maximum money you've made, or what's a lot of money to you? And they'll say a number in their head, and could be 10K, could be $1 million, could be 10 billion. I was just with a client in Dubai, and he's going through a tough time with something, and he shows me his papers on his desk. He's like, this portfolio I manage is $500 million. He just shows me the number because it's on his desk. And he's like, but I still can't get myself to feel confident in this other area of my life. So it doesn't matter how much money you actually have and how much material you have. At every level, there's another devil. So the self-belief and the confidence are going to be two of the biggest things. And I'll always ask people, how confident are you? Or even if I ask you, like 1 to 10, how confident would you rate yourself?
9.
So you're 9 out of 10 confidence. But you see how you said it a little bit like a question?
I had to think about it.
You're like 9?
Yeah.
Right? You was like, I'm not sure. Well, you are 100% confident that you're 9 out of 10 confidence, meaning you're 100% confident that you're not fully confident. Because if you were fully confident, it would be a 10 out of 10, right? But what is confidence? Because people have this idea of what confidence is. It's like this Andrew Tate figure, or this very, I'm driving a lamp. It's none of that. What real confidence is actually just feeling comfortable inside of your own body. So if I ask you, like, how confident would you feel maybe doing a coaching call with your clients, right?
10.
Because why? It's so easy for you. It's comfortable. You've done it a million times. It's just, you can do it with your eyes closed, right? And probably right now you've done a bunch of podcasts. Yeah. So you're just chilling, having a good time. But then if I said to you, okay, you're going to go and, speak in front of the president of the United States, you might feel less confident. You might feel nervous. Why? Because you're less comfortable, you're less familiar. So one of the main things that we do with what I do with clients is I get them into a state where whatever the reality is that they want to get to becomes easy to them. It feels like they've already experienced it. And so when you feel like you've already experienced it, what that does is it changes you on an identity level. It physically affects your brain chemistry. So it creates new neural pathways in your mind. But it basically just makes you believe that you belong where you want to be. And the only reason why people don't get where they want to be is because they don't believe they actually deserve to be there.
And is that why you think a lot of people then end up, because I see this all the time with entrepreneurs we work with, they get a little bit of progress and I literally see them just self-sabotage themselves. They're like, oh yeah, I've decided to go to like Bali for 3 months and then I'm only going to work an hour a day and then the time zone's also awful for my clientele. I'm like, I can just see the same patterns on repeat with certain people.
Yeah. People self-sabotage themselves all the time. Most of the examples I'll give will be anonymous, but some I can say. But another guy, multi-billionaire, and has everything you could possibly want in his life. Went out after the other day, felt a lot of stress and anxiety. Went and had a drink at a bar. The next thing you know, he's crashing his car and he's in prison. Why did that happen? Well, it happened because on a deeper subconscious level, subconsciously he didn't feel like he belonged where he now was. Part of him felt guilty, shameful for things that he'd done, and he didn't feel like he deserved to be there. And so he took actions for him to no longer be there. So basically fuck that up, essentially. People do this on all levels, whether it's, they're just starting their business and they just won't post content, right? Or they maybe get some success. Fear of failure is always a thing that people will say that they have. Fear of success, fear of failure, they're the same thing, because actually most people are more scared of being successful than they are failing. Because fear of failure is not even real, because if you fail by yourself in your own room and nobody knows about it, suddenly you're not scared about it anymore. So you're actually fearful of other people's perception. Fear of success is, okay, what if I become successful? I then get in the limelight a little bit or whatever happens, and then I fail. Now what's happening is you're actually scared of other people's perception of you failing at that level again. So it's exactly the same thing. So these mental battles will happen in the mind, and most people are unconscious that they even happen. Or maybe you you go and do some therapy and then you become aware of these things. Great, now you're aware, but has it actually changed? So an example of this is I had a client, he's actually in the same industry as you, in online fitness coaching, and he'd been at the same revenue mark for about 2 years. So it was about 100K per month, maybe 150. And he'd done the best. He actually saw me with doing a session with Will Brown. That's how he found me. He DM'd me on Instagram. Next day we meet. He tells me, I'm stuck here. I know I can do more, but I just can't get myself to do the actions, right? Whether it's showing up on YouTube, like filming it, just like basic things that he obviously knows how to do. He's paid hundreds of thousands to coaches to do, but he's just not doing it. Why? When we got down deep into it, there was certain events that happened to him in his past that were affecting him subconsciously, that was stopping him from taking the actions, and fear that he didn't even know were happening. If you ever saw that, there was this interview once where Andrew Tate debated a therapist. It's like a really good interview. I highly recommend people watch it. And it's Tate versus therapist, right? He even hired that therapist to come and work on him. And he knew what his problems were, but still they hadn't changed. We did a first session together. This was a few months ago. Next month, he did 300K within 37 days, 466K the next month. And now he'll be on his path to millions a month. And there was not one single business strategy that we went through that he didn't already know. It was just about upgrading his identity and self-image to the level where he just automatically will act in accordance with that. And that's the thing is, you can use willpower, you can use force, that can get you really far, but it's always going to feel hard. And yeah, you need to work hard in order to be successful to a degree. But if it's only reliant on hard work, you're just going to burn out eventually, right? There's only so much you can physically do. So with the subconscious mind and this kind of work, it's more like if you go to a neurosurgeon. You go to a neurosurgeon, you don't say, all right, yeah, give me the scalpel, I'm going to remove the tumor. You just say, you do your job, remove this thing from me so I can go back to being healthy, right? It's kind of the same way with this, is you have whatever the limitation is removed or the fear removed, and then you can just go and automatically get the success that you want.
Quick interjection to the podcast. I know a lot of people watching the podcast haven't yet subscribed. I have one small favor, so help us get bigger and better guests to give you more value. It's hit the subscribe button. I appreciate it massively. Do you think a big part of this problem is you don't know what you don't know, and people don't know the thing that's blocking them? Like, for example, I remember I went to John Berardi kind of like intensive. Sorry, John DeMartini intensive.
Oh yeah,
and
all this stuff.
It was actually in Istanbul in Turkey, and like 99%, it was kind of weird, like 99% of the room were Turkish women, and it was like me and like 3 other people who spoke English. So he basically just kind of like concentrated on me for like 2 days, and he kind of pulled me apart on a load of things from my kind of like background and like childhood, and like that really opened my eyes into some things that I wasn't aware of. And then I did some work again with a therapist last year that then kind of pulled more things out in terms of like my behavior, maybe from like emotions from relationships or whatever, that now that I'm more aware of it, it's easier for me to almost improve my decision making. Yeah.
Clarity is one of the biggest things. Everyone has blind spots. And if you don't think you have blind spots or you don't think you have limitations, you're just blind, or you're just too egotistical to let yourself to see it, right? But like the most successful people, like I know one of the things you probably ask is like, what's the difference with the billionaire people to the non-billionaire people? And one of the, like, here's the thing with hypnosis, with what I do, most people think it's like, pocket watch, man. I actually have a pocket watch for Halloween. I'm gonna, everyone's been asking me today, I'm going to bring out a pocket watch. But it's just like, there's this perception in your mind of what you think that is, or astrology, or whatever these different left field topics are, right? And most people don't think they're real. Any billionaire that I speak to, they're like, oh yeah, of course. Like they're just, of course I would do it. I've either done it or I'm aware of it, right? Why? Because if you want to get exceptionally different results to everybody else, it just requires taking completely different actions to everybody else. And I think, and you'll know this from doing the podcast, like the more you learn, the more you realize you just don't know. And that's the best thing about life, because it means that life is just a continual learning journey. And ultimately it's that growth that you get, whether it's personally, whether it's professionally, whether it's physically, that actually genuinely creates that fulfillment. That's why you can be a billionaire but still feel deeply unfulfilled, which is most of the ones that I work with. Actually, they're not coming to me because they're like, I want to make more money. They know how to
solve that.
They know how to make money. They would spend any amount of money to get the fulfillment back, to let go of whatever weight is they are still carrying, and they just can't figure out how to do. They'll pay any amount of money to do that. So it's that cheesy saying, money doesn't buy happiness. Well, it does to a degree. but it also doesn't to another degree. So that's one of the biggest things I see with them. And I think there's levels to it. I think you have to go through those levels to be able to really have that realization of like, okay, what's actually important? What are the things that I really value? And it's like a self-actualization journey. If you ever seen like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? It's exactly like that. You have to get your basic, you got to be able to have food, shelter, water. Then you start looking at your relationships. Then you start looking at, building your wealth, all of these kind of things. And eventually, why is it that everybody, even Hormozy was talking about meditation the other day, right? He's like, eventually everyone gets there, eventually, but it's just what route you take.
Well, I think it's at that point you've solved every other game and every other problem, and you probably sit there and think like, am I actually happy? What do I do now? Yeah. And that's probably where I think people probably feel a bit lost maybe at that point.
Totally.
Like a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, the purpose is key, particularly for men. Well, it's men and women, but particularly for the men, I find it's usually when they're unhappy, they just don't feel like what they're doing is purposeful. So I'll have clients one of our clients, Jake Trent, he's like a YouTuber, crushes it, millions of subscribers, got all these businesses, these big e-com companies. And he's like, I just don't feel purpose from what I'm doing. So then I did some hypnosis work with him he wanted to become a professional motorbike driver from never driving a motorbike. So we were in Lake Como earlier this year. He's got his bike on, he's got his girlfriend. I'm on a freaking moped because I can't even drive a motorbike. Behind him, driving with him. And he's like, I think I'm going to do a race. I'm like, bro, you can't even drive a bike. What do you mean? He's like, no, I'm being serious. So we do some sessions together. He just goes and does his first motorbike race, right? And it's like all of these things that you don't even think about, like these passions, these other things that you could do actually unlock so much. And I think, take entrepreneurs like Richard Branson, for example. He's the billionaire that all billionaires want to be. Why? Because he's living on an island, he's kite surfing, he's got this life where he's got complete freedom. Dude doesn't even wear shoes half the time. And realistically, like that's what most people actually want. But the reason why people are attracted to that is because it's actually just fully being authentic to who you are. And that only comes through going through this inner journey yourself to figure out what is actually authentic to you. Everyone's sort of looking outward to try and solve inward problems. But really, the thing that will always trump everything is just being able to figure out who you truly are. It creates a magnetism to you that just pulls things in that are seemingly unexplainable, but they are explainable. On a simple level, if you go, I like that person's vibe, or I don't like that person's vibe, and you just kind of feel it, that's a sense, and that can actually be used. A lot of the best business owners use that gut instinct, and it will lead them in the right direction, even if logically their mind is going against it. And I don't know if you've ever had a situation like that where you've like gone against your gut. I definitely have. Yeah. And then I'm like, why didn't I just
it's not a good idea, but you just do it anyway.
Yeah. Because why? There's a program running in the mind based on maybe some kind of fear, maybe some kind of limitation. And that's the test in the moment. It's like, can you overcome whatever that thing the mind is saying and then act differently? And then when you act differently, you get a different result. And then it builds this kind of relationship with yourself of just being able to trust your gut. And then that has always led me to completely unexpected and better places than I could have even imagined.
If you think about like your subconscious mind, a lot of the limiting beliefs people have, how much of that stems from people's childhood, or what's the main thing that kind of creates those mental blocks?
The majority of it comes from childhood. So 0 to 8 years old is when most of the programming happens. So what even is hypnosis? Hypnosis is a state that you're in. It's an altered brainwave state. It's called theta. And the primary brainwave state children are in is this theta brainwave state. So to understand what that's like, it's like that state when you wake up in the morning, when you're awake, but you still kind of feel a bit asleep and a bit dreamlike. You're conscious, but you're kind of in between worlds a little bit. Or maybe you're brushing your teeth and in the shower and those thoughts come through, or driving the car and you kind of go on autopilot.
You don't remember the drive.
You don't even remember the drive, but you did it. Yeah. But you just weren't there like fully. That's that state. So for children, they're primarily in that brainwave state. That's why children can learn rapidly, pick up new skills, new languages, and why they're these just supercomputers, right? But what happens is as you get older, that starts to change and they get conditioned. And basically the beliefs that go in from their parents, their school systems shape them. So if someone is lucky enough to have parents who have amazing belief systems and they've dealt with a lot of their trauma and they're giving them all the right reinforcement, great. But that's not most people. Most people are having shitty programming. For example, for me, like my parents are amazing. I always remember one of the things that I asked my dad for a PlayStation when I was 10. I'm half Indian, so I have an Indian dad who came here flew to the UK from being like wealthy in Africa to being in poverty in the UK because they had to leave everything behind. And I asked him one day, can I have a PlayStation? And he was like, what do you think, money grows on trees? And me being a 10-year-old was like, well, money's from paper's from trees. So technically, yes, didn't go down well with my Indian dad. Don't do that to any Indians out there. But in that moment, it planted a belief system in my head, right? Of like lack, of scarcity. And unconsciously, that gave me certain beliefs about money in that moment, which played out into my life where I would have this lack and fear and scarcity around money. And so these things happen and we don't even know that they're happening for the majority of their time. And so the key is to be able to, first of all, realize when they're showing up and then be able to remove them and get them out of your head. Because your mind is just a computer. You have your conscious mind, you have your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is about 1% of your mind. Your subconscious mind is like 99% of your mind. So it's like 20 bits of information the conscious mind can process versus 50 million bits of information that the subconscious can process. So it's like having a Nokia 1 versus a quantum supercomputer. Like the Nokia 1 is you trying to say, like, I'm just going to willpower my way through this. And it's like, why am I eating badly? Why am I not working on my business? Why do I keep sabotaging myself? Why do I keep having these bad habits? It's because your subconscious mind is programmed to work against you. That's why. It's not a willpower problem. It's a programming problem.
Quick interjection to the podcast. I want to make this specifically for you to help you achieve everything you want in life. So I have one small ask. Let me know what you actually want. If there's anything you want to see specifically on the podcast, drop it in the comments. If there's anything you specifically want to learn about in the podcast, drop it in the comments or message me on Instagram. Now back to the podcast. Do you think, so this is one of the reasons I'm kind of an advocate for Dubai, and we kind of talked about this, about you moving here, is that if you change your environment, do you think that can also change your subconscious? Like once you've been settled in a certain area for a while?
There's three main things that you can change. One of them is your environment, one is your thoughts, and one is your emotions, essentially. So I have this tattoo on my arm which says IS equals ER, internal state equals external reality. Your internal state is affected by three things: your thoughts, created by the mind; emotions, created by the body; and your environment. So environment's probably the easiest one to change quickly because you can change where you live or who you surround yourself with by. Because what that does is it influences you to think differently, right? If you're in a shitty situation around people who pull you down, that's going to affect you no matter how strong-willed you are because it's going into your mind, versus if you're around everybody else who's super kind, super abundant, everyone's just winning, like everyone just lifts you up. Naturally, you're just going to be the average of those people. So environment's one of the biggest. The thoughts, so that's the external one. The internal ones are the thoughts and emotions. When you basically, everything is governed by your belief systems. So what you believe to be true about the world will create your identity, and it will create the actions that you take. So if you have recurring thoughts in your mind that are going around that are not serving you, that are negative, those quiet thoughts in your mind, or maybe it's your parents' thoughts in your mind from years ago, right? I'll always find this with clients. It'll be like, oh, like why are you too scared to go and like scale your business? And it's like something their dad said, maybe you should have gone and get a job or something like that. And in their mind, they view that as like losing love and connection with their parents or approval or whatever it is, right? So once you can identify the thoughts, you can realize, okay, wait, do I actually believe these thoughts? Are they even mine? Because those thoughts didn't even come from you. They came from somewhere else. And if you imagine that most of who you are is just a product of your surroundings, then suddenly you would be very careful about what you allow in your surroundings, whether it's physically, whether it's on your digital environment. I went and saw Dan Martell yesterday.
Okay.
Honestly, I didn't really know the guy that much. A client of mine was his client. Dan Martell was his client. So my client was like, oh, just go along to the event. He wasn't even here. I was like, sure. I wake up yesterday. My girlfriend goes, oh, what are you doing today? I was like, I'm seeing this Dan Martell guy. She's like, who is he? We're walking down the marina. And I literally think Dan Martell in my mind. He then is driving towards me on an electric scooter. And I go, oh, that's who he is. And he just like shows up as soon as I think it. I'm like, okay, weird, whatever. Then I go back home. I go on my phone and the first post is a guy basically saying how Dan Martell like plagiarized this guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that post. Yeah, so I see that post and I'm like, okay, cool, interesting. And then a friend comes to me saying something about Dan Martell. They'll like go to this event and he's there, right? And it's like, we live in this world where our physical reality, our digital reality, everything is so interconnected now on a level that we don't even understand. Like we understand it on basic levels, like for example, on social media, it will listen to what you say, it will show you the content based on what you say, right? But that same process has been going on in the way that we interface with reality forever. And we don't even realize that it's happening. And so if we understand that your thoughts truly do create your reality because they create your belief systems and your belief systems shape your actions, then if you truly knew how powerful that was, you would never allow a negative thought to ever go into your mind because you'd understand that that's actually shaping you, that's creating you.
What would be, so this is one of the things that I find helpful that I personally do. If I want to achieve X, Y, Z, I write every morning in present tense, like I have X amount of net worth, I make this amount every month, to try and like delusionally talk it into existence. And the same thing in terms of like vision boards on my phone. So like I had a vision board, I'd live on the Palm at the start of the year and it happened. A vision board last year, I got a supercar and it happened. And like, how much of an effect do you think small little things like that on your subconscious mind kind of plays into your daily actions?
It's everything. Because it affects your mindset and your mindset shapes your results, right? Everyone says it's like 80% mindset, 90% mindset, whatever, and then the rest is strategy. Well, that is directly going into your subconscious constantly. So it's massive. The key though is you have to actually believe it. That's the key. Because somebody else might take that advice listening and then they might go, right, I'm a billionaire. Cool. You know, Charlie said, write down what I want. But then if they don't actually believe that on an internal level, then it's actually going to work against them because there's going to be doubt that comes in, right? So it's going to have a different effect internally, mentally, emotionally. So the key is to actually write and create things that it's not even about how big the goal is or anything like that. It's about finding out what is actually aligned for you. Because if it's somebody else's goal, you're not really going to connect to it that much. So you have to be able to actually say, okay, what is it that I actually want? And that can sometimes take a little bit of soul searching, right? To figure out what do I actually want. By the way, you can still get things that even aren't, like, you know, people do it all the time, but you got to be careful with what you wish for because oftentimes you'll get it and it might not be what you want.
Everything has a price. And I think what you were referring to those like mimetic goals where like people basically copy someone else's goal thinking because Charlie's done X, I want to do that. And then they realize they don't actually want the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with taking other people's goals for inspiration because that's maybe how you find out what is actually the right goal for you. For example, at this event yesterday with Dan, he was saying how everyone was asking about parenting. There was a lot of parents there and there was like, how do you think about homeschooling and all this kind of stuff? And he said, look, my kids, they're in my world. I'm not here to serve them. They're a part of my world. And they're my responsibility, right? And that's like not what most parents would say. Most parents would say, you know, like the opposite in some way. And I was interesting. I was like, that's actually a really interesting thought. And I have never heard anyone say that before. Does that mean I'm going to adopt his belief system? Well, in my case, not exactly, but it gives me a different perspective and I can see if I resonate with that or not. I don't need to blindly copy it just because he's someone in an authority position, but I can see how he does it and then I can sort of decide how if I want to do it. This is why like masterminds and these coaching containers can be so good when you've got the right people in it because we actually learn by osmosis. We do not learn by what people tell us to do. It's like children, right? Children don't do what you do. They don't do what you say, they do what you do. And we're exactly the same. So this is why this is why the environment's so important. But if most people are being honest, there are certain people in their environment that they shouldn't be spending as much time with. But they're still holding on to it out of some kind of fear. And if they were just able to let that go, immediately they would have an insane amount of progress. That's why there's this Dubai effect of people when they move here, they immediately become so much more successful because it's physically made them let go of the place that they were before and allowed them to step into a new identity. It just makes that process so much easier, right? Because now if I come here and in the UK, I'm this Ebrahim everyone knows here, I'm the billionaire hypnotist and that's who everyone knows me. I go to an event like yesterday, people come up to me, oh, hey, like, Ebrahim, like, you're the hypnotist, right? And what's that doing? It's reinforcing this identity onto me. So that environment change allows you to do that because it lets you just be whoever you want to be. The secret is, though, you don't even have to wait for an environment change. You can just decide. And you can just decide to be whoever you want to be.
Because you did that. You previously had a marketing business for real estate agents, running ads. And then I listened to you talk about this previously, that you just made a decision, I'm now the hypnotist.
Yeah, literally. So I was at October. So 1 year ago, almost to the day, I was in Dubai in October. I was at Will's Mastermind.
Yeah, I think we met there.
And I was still running the agency. I'd also been coaching business owners for quite a long time, and I was realizing that the mindset piece was a big part of it. And I was in this like push and pull. They're all telling me, yeah, but you can't sell mindset. Like, no one buys that. Like, it has to be,
belief though.
No, exactly. But so here's exactly what happened. All of these people at the time, it's funny because they were ahead of me in terms of business. Now almost everybody who told me that I'm now ahead of. It's funny, just in terms of like physical terms. But they told me, you can't do that. And I believed them for a period of time until I didn't. Until I was able to create enough belief inside of myself that actually that's not even true. Like, my journey started 12 years ago when I was hypnotized at a Tony Robbins event. I went in shy, I went in insecure, I didn't have a business. Next thing you know, I'm walking over fire, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Everyone's like, what happened to you? You're this new person like that within a couple of days. What happened? Well, I didn't realize until years later that hypnosis was one of the things used at that event. So I learned from the guy who taught him, who created NLP, Richard Bandler, and I started using it. And then I started to immediately see, oh my God. By this point last year, my friends were just business owners doing well. So I just started using it with them. And then I started seeing change so fast that it just didn't even seem real. But the results were there. They'd start making the money. They could go and cold approach the girl. They'd have the confidence, like whatever the thing is that they were missing. And so I just literally changed my identity. I just made a decision. And I have it, it's kind of cool because I was with my girlfriend and I was telling her, when I knew nothing about what I was going to do, I was like, I'm going to be the best hypnotist in the world. I'm going to be hypnotizing billionaires. And she's like, she believes in me a lot. But even she was like, was it really? Like, you sure? Like,
but
okay.
you said an interesting word there. You said will, not want.
Yeah. Yeah. Because in the world that I created, it's already done. So it's like now when a billionaire comes to me with X problem, it's not a surprise because in my mind it's already happened. So what happens is it's created that familiarity, and going back to the beginning of what we talked about, that comfortability. I'm comfortable with that situation because then I've already created and self-hypnotized myself for that reality to be true. So when it happens, because it will happen, then it's just normal. It still feels great. It's awesome, but it's not a surprise. And so one last thing I'll add, and the reason why this is so key, and I'll use that example, add the other client who's the fitness coach that I work with, the reason why this is so key is because what a lot of people do is they'll hit this invisible glass ceiling in their business, 100K a month, $1 million a month, 10 million a month, whatever. And something inside of them will believe that on a subconscious level, that's the limit that they should be at from whatever the programming is. And so the key here is, you're never going to have growth that only looks like that in a straight line. It's never going to happen. But what most people's growth looks like, this squiggly line. But what it can look like is more like this, up and then flattens out for a bit, up and then flattens out a bit. It can look like that. And the way to do that is to be able to, at every level, as soon as you hit the goal, recreate the identity that is required to get to the next goal, so that the version of you is essentially always ahead of the reality that you're experiencing. And then you'll just constantly be able to level up, and you won't then need to self-sabotage. For example, this month we'll hit another record month, and I'm not going out popping bottles, doing crazy shit. We'll celebrate a little bit, but I know where I am in terms of my whole potential, and it's like less than 1%. So it's like the journey is so far to go. Like, yes, externally it looks good from the outside, but I'm nowhere near where I know that I'm going to be. And then you just apply that same principle at every level, and you can create anything that you want.
You mentioned you thought you could only get to a certain amount of revenue in your own business.
Yep.
And then you changed that for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What did you change, or was it something you saw or something someone said? Like, I'll give a good example. So I think you were at an event with like Jordan Lee and everyone a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was then or when I was with in person with Jordan. He said something to me about his sales team. They have a 30% show rate, 30% close rate, and they make $6 million a month. I was like, I just need to spend more on ads. So I just like spent more on ads. We're making way more money. So it's like, because I had this belief that I had to have a certain amount of kind of like metrics before I just like sent it and let it rip, which for me, he kind of reset thermostat for me a little bit by just realizing where the numbers could be and the whole thing could still work.
Yeah. So he gave you a new program, a new belief system, and it was just strong enough for you to take the action on it. Now, if, you know, your maid said that to you, Mr. Charlie, you just need to spend more on ads. You're probably not going to do it, right? Why? Because you don't believe her.
Because she hasn't done it. That's why.
Because she hasn't done it.
Yeah.
So yes, you can borrow that belief from other people, and that's a hack. But fundamentally, you don't even need to do that. The best people in the world, the Elon Musks of the world, who are able to literally shape shift themselves, go from being in payments to rockets to politics to social media, whatever. It's like, that's literal identity recreation, right? And you don't actually have to rely, like the greats, the people, like, for example, why is Jordan scaling so far? Like, yeah, he's in, you know, programs, he's getting all the information, that kind of stuff. But ultimately, he's just got the balls to do it, right? What most other people won't do. Most people would be way too scared to spend $2 million in a month on ads. And that's like a ceiling. But then if you actually just zoom out of all of that, suddenly you realize there's people making billions of dollars per month. And their whole thought system is completely and utterly different. And it would just break down your entire reality, right? So the biggest thing that I give to my clients is one of my belief systems, that every belief is actually a limiting belief. Every single belief, even the strongest belief that you think is your greatest superpower, it still has limitation inside of it, because it could be greater. So when you realize that, basically these belief systems, how they affect your actions, how they affect your reality, you just become a video game character. You just decide, like, who do I want to be? I select that. You show up. You create this. It was either Steve Jobs or Elon Musk who was described as having this reality distortion field. You ever heard of this concept?
No.
So I think it was Jobs, and they would say, you know, he was crazy. He was this ruthless leader, but somehow he would be able to just get everybody to be bought into his belief system, even though it seemed impossible at the time. Well, that's the same way Dubai was built, by the way. This was sand 60, 70 years ago. Now it's one of the greatest cities on earth. Do you think that just happened? No, they had to have insane level of certainty, insane level of belief, balls to be able to pull this off and get everybody on. And ultimately, that's in how you attract the best things to you, because the people who also think at that level, they want more of that, because they know and they can sense that inside of themselves, like, okay, this is going somewhere. That's how you get the best people on board as well. And so it all starts with, take that example of Jordan. It all starts with.
You did some work with him as well, actually. I think I saw it.
Yeah. We did a session a few months ago. I think he was at like 1 million when we did. I'm not claiming, by the way, that I scaled him from, but like just to show how quickly his growth has been. Why? Because runs a good business and all that, but realistically, like, is it that much different? And to all of the other online businesses that kind of do a similar thing in terms of like fundamentally how a business is run? Not really. Like, it's a great business, I'm sure, but is it that different? No. It's him. It's his ability and how he is able to lead himself and therefore lead people and develop people. He even said at that event that you were speaking at, that there's no way he'd be able to be profitable and scale the way he did if he wasn't able to run his team the way that he does. And a lot of that is just giving them the right confidence, the right beliefs that they can go and do it. It's mostly that. And I'm starting to realize that more as well, just the importance of that in my own business, just how everything trickles down from the top. So that's why I always say, like, the best investment you can make into your business is just into your own mindset, because with that mindset, you can unlock tens of millions, you can unlock hundreds of millions just with one idea. It's all inside of your mind right now. It's just literally having the belief shift to unlock it, and then having the confidence to go and take the action behind it. And I bet there's even things for you, like, you know, you could be doing
100%.
way more, right? So for you, like, what's the thing stopping you?
So it's so interesting. Been trying to work this out the last few days. Like we're on a record month this year, and I'm like, why? So I've just had a baby. I personally am taking barely any calls. I've not worked. I've been working on the business, not in the business, like at all. So part of me is like, and we've just spent loads more on ads. I've just hired loads more salespeople. So part of me is like, everything I'm just doing is just super high leverage, and that's kind of. And I've also just been more aggressive with spending. So I think a lot of it is removing a limiting belief of, oh, I don't want to lose money or waste money on ads if it might not work. If it doesn't work, it's fine.
Yeah. So what was that? That was just a fear, right? A fear of losing money.
Or like only Ed Milet has this saying of like, you get a certain amount of success and you sort of like turn the thermostat up in the room, and then people get kind of like hot and then they turn it down to get a bit scared.
Yeah.
It's the same thing of like, oh, we're spending 2,000 a day on ads, 3,000 a day on ads. Like, oh, I better turn it down. That's quite a lot. Like you see it kind of build through. And I think you mentioned about like Jordan there's like having the minerals to keep spending, even if you've had a couple of like slow days, knowing that over a longer period of time, it'll work.
It all starts with the end in mind. So for him, if he wants to be, I don't know what his end in mind is. I know it's like at least hundreds of millions. Maybe he sees himself as a billionaire, whatever his results are. But let's just use the example of a billionaire's mindset. If your mindset is truly someone who is going to become a billionaire, let's say as an example, then do you think if your ads don't perform for a couple of days, that's going to turn you off? No, it's literally like the bump in the road of how small and insignificant that is to the bigger picture is literally nothing. And what that does is it, on a fundamental level, it removes the emotion of fear attached to it. And ultimately, everything we do is actually driven by emotion. Like we like to think we're just these like stoic, rational people. And yeah, you can develop that. But ultimately, it's the emotion that drives everything that we do. So for example, in that with Jordan Lee, what happened? He showed you what he was doing. That gave you this new belief system, which is ultimately driven by an emotion for you to actually go and do the thing, right? You had the belief that you could now go and do it, and then you did it, and now you've had a record month. So that's just like, imagine if you applied that same principle just times 10x or times 100x, where you could be in what space of time. And the thing is like, you might get there anyway, but as you go further along your journey, you just realize how much more valuable time actually is than money, because you can always make more money, you can't get more time. And so for me, I'm always just looking at how can I just compress time as much as possible. And oftentimes when it comes to business, it is just the things that you already knew were the right thing to do, but it's just overcoming the fear to be able to do them because you see the vision now so clearly in your mind, and it feels like, okay, yeah, this is now easy.
And I also think I actually ask you a question. Do you think there's value in doing things like ocean personality tests to understand where your limiting beliefs are, so you can try and hypnotize yourself out of kind of your own personality? Yeah. I'm not going to say flaws, but maybe weaknesses and traits.
I think anything that helps you understand more about yourself, that's a valid model, is useful. So I use all kinds of things with clients. I'll use personality tests. I'll use freaking numerology sometimes with clients. Like I'll look at everything, even if, some people might disagree or agree with some of them, but the more insight you can gain on yourself, the better. That's why in corporate, they'll do these like 360 reviews, right? Where everyone will give a report of the CEO of what they see from their perspective, and you just basically get roasted pretty much. But that's the best thing you can do, because then you understand yourself better. And when you understand your weaknesses better, once you overcome the ego and the hurt of that, you can then just be way more effective. Like I know exactly what my weaknesses are, which is why I don't try and of course I get better, but I don't need to fight against them. I just bring in the right people and processes and systems to fill in those gaps. And then lo and behold, for me, and actually like John DeMartini, one of the things I love about John, I think he's an absolute master, by the way, super underappreciated in terms of his actual intellect, his skill set. One of the things he talks about is how he only does the things that he essentially loves to do. And he's ruthless about that, right? What does he do? He teaches and he travels, basically, right? And that's all that he does. And you could say, oh, but John, you could have made way more money. He doesn't give a fuck. He's living the life that he wants to live, and he's completely in alignment, happy, content doing that. And he's living the best version of his life. And I think that what most people do is they live a version of a life that somebody else told them to do and tries to fit themselves in like a round peg into a square hole. And then they just get miserable, particularly with these like online businesses. You can make money really fast in these businesses, but then if you have to sacrifice too many parts of yourself, eventually you're just going to burn out, or in any business. So if you can figure out and that's why I gave the example of like a Richard Branson. His strengths, dude's dyslexic, one of the most successful people in the world, managing 400 companies while he's chilling on an island. That's not a reality for most people. But I bet if you went and spent 2 days with Richard on Necker Island, you'd probably come and make some changes off the back of that. Why? Your belief systems about what's possible would change.
It's a law of exposure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in terms of people investing in themselves, one of the biggest things I see is people have a massive limiting belief in first investing in themselves one time. And like for me, for example, as soon as I invested in myself to help someone with me either getting in shape or improving my business, I was like, this is literally like the cheat code to life. And then, as you said, you can compress time down. And I've spent $500,000 plus at this point in kind of self-development, mentorships, all types of stuff. But I see people all the time who think it's a scam, they're afraid to invest in themselves. What would be your advice to someone who's in that position now? Like they think they need to focus on improving where they're at, but they're afraid.
If someone's scared of investing in themselves, where did that fear come from? Is the first question I would ask them. Because why do you think it's a scam? Who planted that belief in your head? And why do you tolerate that belief? Was it somebody who's where you want to be who gave you that belief, or was it somebody who's actually nowhere near where you want to be? And I can guarantee you, once you start asking yourself those questions, you'll realize it came from someone who is not in the position that you want to be. So then logically, does it make sense to even believe that you have? Probably not. What would be a better idea? Maybe I should listen to someone who's actually where I want to be. I won't listen to people in a regard if they're not actually where I want to be on that specific thing. Doesn't mean I can't respect them and all that thing. I probably won't listen to what they're saying because they don't have the result. So I would just ask yourself that question, because then you'll realize the answer. Anyone can tell you should invest in yourself and how it worked for me or how it worked for you. Like, we can sit here all day and say that, but we had to get to a point and overcome that ourselves at one point of thinking. Like, I remember when I was 19 years old, I was in uni doing my economics degree, and Ty Lopez's Lamborghini ad comes on here. Everyone's like taking the piss out of it at uni. Like, everyone's laughing at it. And eventually one day I was like, what if it's not a scam though? What if it is real? And I did it, changed my life.
You're the second person who said the exact same thing about the same ad, the same course.
Yeah. And here's the thing is, like, even if it's not the best thing in the world or the best course in the world or whatever, it might just be that step that you need to take in order to have that change in your life. And people would rather bet on a slot machine or bet on crypto or anything else, or the clothes that they wear, other than themselves. And the reason why they do that is because deep down they don't believe that they're worthy of being bet on in themselves, right? So like, I train sales teams and I'll work with their belief systems, I'll do hypnosis with them. And most of the time what it comes down to when a salesperson isn't performing is it's not even that, like, they don't believe in the product or the service or whatever it is. It's literally just a belief system inside of themselves. Something inside of themselves doesn't think that, they feel like a fraud inside, or they feel like the thing that they're selling is that they're actually, like, they're not actually the person to sell that. It's a self-image issue. And as soon as that changes, closing rate doubles. Because then what happens is, when they have the belief in themselves, naturally that belief in certainty and confidence comes out in how they show up. And that's the first representation of whatever they're selling, which is what people buy at the end of the day. All people are really buying, they're not buying your course, they're buying the certainty that you can help them go from X to Y. And they just believe that you can do that. That's all it is. Regardless of what you're selling, it's just the belief that it can solve the problem or get you to where you want to go. And that's what makes people buy. But it's not just buying externally, it's selling ourselves that we can do whatever it is that we want to do. I actually forgot your question there. I went off on a tangent.
But what do you think is the quickest way for someone to try and unpack what their limiting belief is, or why they're kind of stuck? Because the big thing I see is people are in these constant loops. They live the same day on like repeat. They do the same patterns and they don't even realize they're doing it, which is why they have the exact same results. So like, obviously, like, if you change your habits, you can kind of change your outcomes in terms of like what you're doing day to day, and eventually you can probably rewire that. What would be your advice for someone in terms of they're not in the position they want to be? How do they try and find what's blocking them and shift that?
So if you just think about your goal, what's your next goal? Do you mind sharing what your next goal is?
I want to be I want to get to $1 million a month at some point.
$1 million a month. Okay. So
that's been like for like 3 years, and I can't.
Okay.
I first need to get to $500,000 a month, but like that's the longer term one because I just think it'd be cool. I don't have a intrinsic need for it, which is maybe why I haven't got there.
Yeah.
Because it's not, but I think it'd be cool.
So is that enough of a
motivation
belief, or is that enough of a reason why to get to $1 million a month? Like, do you care enough to get to that point?
You probably answered the question there.
So there needs to be a deeper inherent reason why that is big enough to evaporate any self-doubt or any kind of limitation that could come up. So imagine your goal for a minute was 10 million a month. Okay. If your goal was 10 million a month, what about you would need to be true? And what about yourself, what would need to change in order for you to get to that goal?
I'd need to think a lot bigger and be a lot more aggressive with what we do, but also focus on higher leverage things with everything I do on a daily basis and really audit my time selectively.
Yeah. So say the first thing again, repeat the first thing that you just said. The first part would be focus on like only really high leverage stuff out the gate, like nothing, and really audit my time very, very selectively. Yeah. So right now, how much of and it sounds like you've done a lot of that this month in terms of focusing on the high leverage stuff. Before we go into that, we're at the end of the month now on the 31st, right? How's your like internal thermostat right now?
In terms of happiness or fulfillment or contentment part of my head's like, okay, we spent this amount of ads. This is 20% more than last month. I've just said to myself next month, okay, we're going to spend another 20% more and just see what happens.
Yeah.
And just like, almost like hold the line of just keep trying to like, almost like trench warfare, like just take 100 yards at a time and just kind of see what happens, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And how comfortable do you feel about that, about doing another 20%?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. What if you spent 100% more?
Yeah, that pushed me outside my comfort zone, I think.
Yeah.
But that's probably what I need to do.
Yeah.
And a part of me is like, why don't you just do it and see what happens?
Yeah. So that's actually a really good mindset to have, to why not just do it and see what happens. The reason why is because it's actually quite detached from the goal, which is ironically what you actually need to hit the goal.
And that's kind of what I've been focusing on as well. Is like we need to make X amount of revenue day. If I spend X amount of ads, it kind of balances out, and just don't obsess too much over like tracking and the data so much, because you can't track everything back necessarily. So like why it's the puzzle we've been trying to like pull apart is that a lot of the ads don't track directly back because we're just forcing those people into our social media from the ads. So I think for me, it's probably like not being afraid of potentially losing money.
Yeah.
And this was some white swan event that we just got loads of clients sign up, which doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. So it's like, it's just a fear at the end of the day. So if you what if you were to double the amount that you were going to spend in November?
So we spent £50,000 this month, so it'd be £100,000 in November.
Okay. So you spent 100, so you'd spend 100 in November.
Yeah.
When you think about spending 100 in November, what happens to your internal thermostat?
That I get a lot of, one thing, I get a lot of points on my Emirates Skywards cards. That's ideal. So that's points and prizes.
There we go.
But
there's your purpose.
Yeah,
you just found it.
Yeah, free air travel. But I think it would be tolerating if it was slow for a few days or a few weeks when you're at that kind of spend, because you'd see a lot going out.
Yeah.
It's just tolerating, like being able to, as you said, detach from that reality.
Yeah. And so part of it, and the reason why I said, what if it was 10 million, what would need to happen is because if you can operate from, like the amount of people that have said to me, like, I know you'll be a billionaire in your life. I don't even care about being a billionaire. I literally couldn't give a flying fuck. I'm genuinely serious, I couldn't care. But the amount of people that have said that to me because of the way that I show up now and what is a big thing to me and what isn't a big thing to me is insane. And whether that happens or not isn't the point. The point is the version of yourself that you're operating from. So if you can create a whole new world and a whole new identity for yourself and where you're operating, and I just gave an example of 10 million just to put a number to it, then suddenly how small does $1 million feel?
Tiny.
Because when everyone's around you, and this is where one of these very tangible glass ceilings are in this online space, is like $1 million a month is like a lot of money. That's like, oh, you get a plaque if you hit $1 million a month. It's like, if that was just such a tiny and small, like I'll be charging $1 million for a client, for one client. And that to me is still not a lot of money, because I've programmed myself for that, right? And so for you, if you just look at it, it needs to feel so small and easy and insignificant and right there in front of you. And that like let's say that $1 million a month right now was just, if it was easy, like imagine it was easy just to hit the $1 million a month. What would you do like right after this? If you're like, all right, we're going to hit $1 million a month. It's happening in November. That's what we're doing. What are the next steps that you would take?
Film shitloads of ads and launch them.
Yeah.
Hire more salespeople.
Yep. Ironically, that was exactly the same thing that my other client I was mentioning needed to do as well. It's like, you know what to do, right?
But this is also why we had the best month this month. I was like, well, I'll just increase the sales team by 50% and we'll just increase the traffic loads and just see what happens.
Yeah.
And I just removed my fearful mind of being like, I'm just going to spend the money and see what happens anyway.
Yeah. So now literally for
continue
you,
that process, but higher levels.
For you, it's just now just taking those steps. And I think I can already tell you're like far enough in your journey to be able to just, go and do those things. So it's like, okay, you're going to spend 100K this month. You're going to hire this amount of people. But here's the actual interesting thing. The reason why this is so cool is because doing that then pulls you to be a greater version of yourself. It forces you to have to grow. And that's the actual good bit. The growth is where the fulfillment comes from.
Yeah.
Right? And so when don't feel like you're growing, you feel like you're what? Dying. And that's the worst feeling in the world. And that's why it doesn't matter how much money you actually make. It's just being on the pursuit of growth that actually matters.
And this is actually the thing that puts me in the worst mood and pisses me off from anything else, is when I feel I'm not progressing in something in life, whether it's in my fitness, my physique, or business, or in terms of like relationships or whatever it might be. And I think a lot of that is probably more maybe a male thing of being competitive, of constantly like you're always on the hunt and you're looking for the next thing and trying to catch and then kill and then keep kind of repeating that kind of process.
Yeah.
And I think what I also found easier, it's more momentum you've got and more success you've had, it's easier to kind of push harder and faster, if that makes sense, and you enjoy it more.
100%. 100%. Now imagine that if you weren't going to reach that potential, imagine that if you got to your deathbed and looked back at not reaching that potential. Because the number one thing people die with is regret. If you actually feel the pain of that, knowing that you haven't fulfilled your potential and the reason why is just because of some fear or just because of a limiting belief, that's the reality for a lot.
This reminds me a bit of when I left my full-time job, 25th February 2019, so not that long ago. So I used to work in estate agents for my sins. And a lot of my thought process at the time was like, if I leave my job, I was making maybe 6 figures a year there, and I go become an online fitness coach at the time, which was like really unusual then. People thought I was like clinically insane. Worst case scenario is I'm just back to where I was anyway. So the biggest regret I'm going to have is not trying. And I think this is it's the same game, but at different levels of like, okay, you regret not trying to spend more. You regret not hiring the mentor. You regret not moving to Dubai or whatever the thing is.
Yeah. At all these events as well, the funniest thing is what most people say the regret is in the business sense is they just didn't spend more on ads. They just didn't do more when it was working. Right. And that's just on a micro level. We can do a hypnosis for this if you want.
Yeah.
So what's the goal? November
to if we could do 400K November, top line.
What if it was $1 million?
If we could do $1 million.
Do you believe, if we do it for $1 million, will you go for the $1 million?
I'll try it, yeah.
Okay. You give it your best?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. You want to do it now?
Yeah.
All right, cool. You ever done it before?
No.
Okay. Cool. It's really easy. So all you have to do is just follow what I say and then relax. So you can put your feet just a little bit more straight for me. I'll take this arm. All you got to do is fully relax this arm first. So just take your attention and allow your arm to go completely heavy in my arm. So when I drop it to your leg in a moment, it'll just be like a sack of meat dropping down. Good. Now we're going to go even heavier with this arm, just like that. That's it. And then I drop it, it'll feel even heavier. Perfect. Now I just want you to copy what I'm doing with my hands. Put your hands like that. Open those two fingers. Just like that. Yeah, just like that with your index fingers open. Now just focus your attention on those two fingers. And I just want you to imagine that in between your two fingers there's a magnet. And as you imagine that magnet, what you'll notice is it will want to start to bring your fingers together. It will actually start pulling them together. You actually start to feel this magnetic force in between your two index fingers. And the more that you focus and allow that magnet to get stronger, the more your index fingers will want to come together. And what you can notice already is that your fingers are actually starting to get closer and closer together. And as you start to focus on your fingers getting closer together with that magnet getting stronger, you'll notice yourself starting to just get more relaxed, more into this just state of trance right now. And as you now imagine, the closer those fingers get together, the stronger that magnet gets. It gets stronger, they want to come together more. They get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And now, as that magnet's pulling them together, in a moment your fingers are going to want to touch together. And as they're now getting to touch and get closer together, so I want you to imagine I'm wrapping a wire around those two fingers, which brings them together. The more we try and push your fingers apart, the closer together they want to get. Allowing those fingers to get closer and closer and closer together. And in a minute, what you're going to find is those magnets get so strong that they're going to want to touch. Letting them get closer and closer and closer. With every word that you hear, those magnets get stronger. The more you try and resist it, the stronger they get together. Those magnets are so powerful, those fingers literally just want to draw together, going further and further. The closer they get together, the stronger that magnet gets. The more you try to fight it, the more they come together. And in a moment, you'll notice that they are stuck together. If you try and think about moving them apart, they literally are stuck together. That copper wire I'm now wrapping around it makes your fingers push together really, really, really hard. And in a moment when I say the word sleep, you won't go to sleep, but you're just going to go into a deep state of relaxation with your eyes closed, starting with 3, 2, and sleep, fully relaxing all the way down. With every word that I say, it's just going to take you deeper into the state of relaxation, letting the entire body go nice and relaxed, allowing that relaxation to travel down the entire body. I want you now to imagine that your eyelids are getting so heavy and so relaxed that you cannot open your eyes. And once you've imagined that your eyelids are so heavy and so relaxed that you cannot open them, in a moment when I say the word sleep, you won't go to sleep. It will just take you 1,000 times deeper into the state of relaxation. 3, 2, 1, and sleep, fully relaxing all the way down, completely letting go. And in a moment when I say eyes open, your eyes will be able to open. And then when I say the word sleep, they'll close again, taking you 1,000 times deeper into this state every time that they close, starting now with eyes open, sleep. Eyes open, sleep. Eyes open, sleep. And sleep all the way down, completely letting go. And now I want you to imagine that you're standing at the top of a golden spiral staircase. And as you stand at the top of this staircase, you can see 10 golden steps right in front of you. And as you look at these golden steps, you see there's a golden handrail on the right-hand side. You put your hand on that handrail and you can feel the temperature of that metal in your hand. You can feel the coldness of it. And as you take the step down this staircase, takes you even deeper into this state of relaxation. And as you take the next step, you go even deeper still. And as you take step after step, you go down further and deeper into this golden spiral staircase. And as you approach the bottom of the staircase, you notice that there's a door. And as you open this door, you find yourself in a movie theater. And as you go into this movie theater, you realize it's completely empty. It's just you. And so you go and sit on the very front row of this movie theater. You recline the seat all the way back, and as you recline it, you go even more relaxed with your body. And as you look up at this giant movie screen, what you see is your life playing like a movie right in front of you. But it's not just your life, it's 2 different pathways. Right now, you are at a crossroads in your life, in this moment in time. On the 31st of October, there's 2 pathways that you can go down. There's a pathway to the left and there's a pathway to the right. You first of all go down that pathway to the left, and as you walk down this pathway, everything's familiar, everything's known. You recognize your environment, the people around you, the recurring thoughts that go through your head, your beliefs about what you can do in your business, what's a lot, what's not a lot. maybe before to you, making 400K per month seemed like a lot. Maybe that's what you believed that you could do. Maybe there was some fear about losing money or spending too much. And what would happen if you lost that money? What would that mean about you on a deeper level? What would that mean about you as a man? What would that mean about you as a failure, or not succeeding, or not reaching your potential? And as you continue to go down this pathway, another year of your life flies by, and then 5 years goes by, then 10 years goes by, and suddenly you're transported all the way to the very end of your life, so much so that you have 60 seconds left. And as you have 60 seconds left, the clock is counting down, your loved ones are looking down at you. You can't help but feel this sudden pain of regret. And you feel this pain of regret in your chest because you know that you didn't live up to your potential. And you know that you could have done so much more. You could have been so much more, reached so much more, made so much more, given so much more. And suddenly that pain inside of you grows so strong, and you finally realize that the only thing that stopped you from reaching your potential was that fear, was that limitation. And it wasn't even yours. It was from someone else. And so as you have this realization, you turn that pain into fuel. You come all the way back to the beginning of those two pathways. And now, when you try and even think about that old version of yourself, the version of yourself that maybe had fear of spending the money or growing, it gets removed from your subconscious mind. It literally gets deleted. The more you try and think about that self, the more it gets deleted. You literally cannot even remember or associate to that old version of yourself. You see that old version of yourself zooming 1,000 miles away into the distance. And the more you try to think about it, the more you forget it. It gets deleted, it gets removed. And now, the new pathway appears. Now, the pathway to the right appears right in front of you. On this pathway, it's the end of November, and it's the moment where you've just made your first $1 million a month. And suddenly, this, what used to be a goal, is now a reality. How easy does it feel to make $1 million a month? How easy does it feel to spend more on ads, to hire more people? Suddenly, in comparison, everything just feels so damn easy. The version of yourself that walks down this pathway, how much confidence does this version of yourself have? In fact, imagine there's a confidence dial on your chest right now. Notice where it is, and imagine I'm turning it up from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 10 confidence, 11 out of 10 confidence, 12 out of 10 confidence. You are absolutely certain and have zero doubt that you will hit $1 million a month in November. Why? Because it's actually easy, it's within your potential, and this is just the start. This is nothing. You'll immediately go and take the actions that you need to take without any fear, without any doubt, without any hesitation, and it's already done. When you understand and accept that, I just want you to nod your head for me. And now, all you have to do in order to have this reality is to simply make a decision right now, a decision to yourself. And that the decision is, which version of yourself do you choose to show up as? Do you choose to go down the pathway to the left, or do you pick the pathway to the right? And as you see yourself walking down that pathway, notice how much certainty you have, notice how you walk, notice how you talk, notice the eye contact you make, the way you project your voice, the version of yourself where $1 million a month has already happened, it's easy, it's done. And you will find it so simple and easy to now go and take the actions in order to make that reality happen. And when you're ready, it's done. And 3, 2, 1, eyes open, wide awake.
I want to go up the ad spend more. It's weird, like, gave me a lot of weird, like, nerve kind of feelings.
Yeah.
But I think it's, you almost feel like starstruck is extreme, but I think it's, you know what to do, but you just haven't been doing it to the level like you know you can.
How different does it feel now when you think about doing the million? How does that feel differently now compared to before?
Simpler. Like, it's more, it's obvious it's obvious, but you just don't do it, if that makes sense.
How confident are you to go and do it now?
9 out of 10.
What's the missing one?
That I haven't done it before.
Yeah. Do you think that you can do it?
I think I could do it.
What are you not sure about?
So this will be another limiting belief I've had before, is how big the market is for what we sell. But I got corrected on that by Alex Almighty, also in person, in February, which then again broke limiting beliefs for me for that. So I think I need to, I don't know if this is the right approach, but almost like turn off the emotions of overthinking and just do, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you think you can do it?
Yeah, I think I could do it. I think I need to not justify to myself why I can't do it.
Yeah. You've got every reason to do it. And ultimately as well, it's just about zooming out and seeing the bigger picture as well. It's so much more than like making the million. It's like, that's cool, but it's so much more than that. It's proving it to yourself that you can do it and reaching your own potential. And any time you go through a level up in life, a new identity, a new change, it's always going to be an element of unknown. Of course, you haven't done it before, because if you've done it before, you'd just be coasting.
Yeah.
Right? You'd just be, but you're confident. I'm sure you're confident you can make the same money as last month.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because you've already done it. Now, all you have to do is take that same confidence into this month. If you've made that,
just turn it up.
You just turn it up. That's it. There's nothing stopping you now.
When people are at this point, how do they fuck it up? Is when they get fearful, and then they start not doing what they were doing to get them where they were.
Yeah. I mean, what in general you're asking? Yeah.
Or like inside this as an example. So you work with a lot of clients who've gone a couple $100,000 to $1 million or multiple millions.
Yeah. It's literally just noticing the fear or noticing whatever the limiting belief is, and just removing that, just letting that go. Because it's not real. Right?
False expectations are pretty real.
Yeah. It isn't real. It's made up. So you just see it for what it is. And then you're like, oh, okay, that's not real. And then you go and change it. And oftentimes it's like, it can be a multitude of things as well. Like I'll have clients who will just go and fucking, when you access from this version of yourself, like I've had clients who have just gone and made something new that's 10 times more, and they've just sold a few people on it, or done one different thing as well that's just brought in all of this new revenue. You access a level of basically creativity in your mind of, okay, if you just think if I need to do $1 million, what needs to happen in order for me to get that? Suddenly just new resource becomes available in your mind about what's possible. And when you're open to that, the answers will come. And they'll always be like relatively simple things. It's never going to be like that crazy. It's like, oh yeah, I can just do this instead, or I can do this as well, or I can just spend more, or whatever the thing is. It's just realizing that like any limitation, any box that's you're currently in is just self-created, and that you are the one to take yourself out of that box and just go to that next level.
Is there a practice or a way I can repeat that on myself to regain that state, or other people listening and watching?
For sure. For you, I would just do this, listen to this again.
Okay.
So I can have I have like a sound engineer that I work with for my clients. Like I'll just make you into an audio. Okay. Just listen to that every day, morning and night. And for other people, I have a bunch of for free that they can do on YouTube if they want to try it. And yeah, you just like the consistency part is also key, because you have the shift forward, and then all you need to do is just continuously remind yourself of who you now are. So that's your new baseline. So whenever I've had like the most successful clients who have the really big shifts over time, they're just then reminding themselves. So you just listen to it. And then morning and night is best, because it's when your mind is naturally in the theta brainwave state. It's just naturally where you're going to be more susceptible to trance. Like sometimes you're on a podcast, there's lights on you, like you're thinking about other things, so you might not go like as deep. Like we could have gone way deeper. We just did a quick 5 minutes, right? But if you then just let yourself do this consistently, it will just constantly remind you, okay, cool. Like it just brings me back to the goal, back to what's really important. And then it just becomes automatic. Then it's like not even fearful. There's no fear to overcome. It's like, if you imagine it from Jordan's perspective, because he was the one you gave up, it's probably not hard for him to spend another 2 million or more this month, right? Because it's already happened. It's already done. So all you need to do in your mind is just continuously put yourself there where it's just already done. Like spending the 100K, non-negotiable. Hitting the goal. And then with the actual million, I think for you, just like detaching from the actual number and just doing it to see what happens is going to be better for you. Because then it's going to, I think for you, it's just going to remove any of that weight or that pressure. 'Cause pressure can help a bit, but I think for you, it's like, I get the sense that, yeah, you want to hit the goal, but I don't know if it's like the only thing that you're driven by, or like just...
Not. It'd be a cool milestone to do, because I've done pretty much all the other ones. And I think for me, it's being persistent in the process of doing that and continuing to be aggressive, to be on the offense, to push towards that, if that makes sense.
100%. And that for you is the thing I'd focus more on, because that's going to give you, that's like more real to you. And then it's just you versus you.
You mentioned the theta brainwave state. Is there a way people can get themselves, or I can get myself into that state more often?
Yeah. So what a lot of people will do is they'll meditate, right? To try and relax the mind to get into it. That's quite hard for a lot of people in today's day and age, because the average attention span used to be 54 minutes. It's now 7 seconds, because that's the average attention span now, because of, TikTok and stuff. So it's hard to do that. I would just say, what I do is the reason why hypnosis, by the way, is because it just helps you to get past the logical mind quicker by bypassing the logical mind and going into the subconscious mind. That's why I've sort of tried everything and ended up here. Yeah. So for most people, that's a place that I can recommend. Just go find some stuff, listen to that, because it will just program you better. And then the second thing is, if you do it straight as soon as you wake up in the morning, that's when you're most programmable. So what do most people do when they wake up? Open their phone, go on social media, go on emails, fire here, fire there. Immediately you're getting programmed with fear, basically. So instead of doing that, just switch that out for a practice, whether it's hypnosis, visualization, some kind of thing that just puts you into the right mind state, whatever you like. And then that will immediately that's the one thing you can do that will just give you the most impact if you just want a quick 10-minute thing.
That energy or vibe in the morning you first wake up is the most insane thing for me. I said to you, I sit outside and I literally will write out what I want to achieve, and kind of I've done it in present tense, but I can also think really creatively as well. So I enjoy writing and writing ideas, because I find it just flows from my brain. I've got no other noise from the world has kind of distracted me or thrown me off.
100%. Yeah, that's that time you should protect at all costs. And I would just literally just listen to this before that, and you'll be the goal will be inevitable for you to hit, because it's literally just time catching up.
Yeah.
Because you're just doing, the inputs are what goes into your mind, and then what actions that you take. Those are the inputs, right? And then the outputs are the business, the health, the life, etc.
This has been very profound. Is there anything I should have asked you I haven't asked you that would be useful for the audience?
I would just say, if I could say what is one main message that I could share for people to take home and have more of, is it's just to have more certainty in themselves, and to realize that certainty, confidence doesn't come from outside of you, it actually comes from inside of you. And so the moment that you just decide on something, and then you are willing, and that's in spite of the fear that you feel, by the way. This doesn't mean you don't feel fear, but if you can get to the decision where you decide to be certain enough to take the actions that you know you're supposed to be taking, and if you can just do that and take that one step and prove it to yourself, everything on the other side of that, the way that your life will unfold, will be more than you can ever imagine. Because once you do that one time, you then know it's replicatable. And then you can just, in my mind, I know that I can, whatever I decide to achieve, I know that I can, whatever I decide, because I understand how this process works. So whatever I want to apply this to, I can do it. And that's, people always ask me what's one of the best things about hypnosis for you? It's just that. It's just knowing that whatever I choose to decide, I can do. And I know that any limitation that I will come across will happen, but I know I'll be able to also overcome it. And that's the process. So for everybody listening, is like, if you can just make that decision to be certain enough to take that first step that you need to take right now, and whatever that is in your life, and then you let yourself realize that you made that happen, you can then just do the same thing again and again and again and again and again. And then life just becomes only limited by the imagination.
Comes easy.
Yeah.
Big thank you for your time. Where's the best place for people to find out more about you, what you do?
Social media, just my name, Ebrahim, Instagram, YouTube, either of those are good.
Some great comments in there. I'm sure you guys took a ton of value from that. Make sure you like, subscribe and share. Check Ebrahim out and check out the next episode on screen right now.